everybody? Welcome to The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I'm Jesse Cofield. We got a lot going on this Thursday. We are going to help you out with those Thursday night football bets. We're going to talk DFS. As you can see here, countdown is on. Just under 10 hours until Steelers-Browns. So we're going to help you out, figure out your lineups, figure out some bets you might be interested in. We're also going to talk about the MLB slate today. So we have a lot going on. But first, I'm going to toss it over to my trusty co-host, Emerson Latzia, who is joined now by a great friend of the program.
Indeed, I am Jesse Cofield. His name is Ross Tucker. He's a broadcaster, podcaster, former NFL lineman. The man was lucky enough to be on the call for the latest Bills victory. So they're one of 6 teams still undefeated here, dude. Which 2-0 squad excites you the most? So Buffalo, Chiefs, Bucks, Dolphins, Eagles, Giants. Go ahead.
By the way, I'm surprised that Jesse called you her trusted friend. I would not trust you for a lot of different things.
Yeah,
but that's on Jesse, I guess.
do not blame you for that. It's because
I'll give you 2 teams, Emerson. 2 teams that are 2-0 I'm impressed by. The Buffalo Bills, just because they've been so dominant in both those games. I mean, I called that game Monday night. It was 41-7 in the third quarter. Both teams had their backup quarterbacks in. It felt like a preseason game. That never happens, NFL, Monday Night Football. So the Bills, and then I would say the Giants, too, just the fact that the Giants are 2-0. I mean, there's 6 undefeated teams, and one of them is the New York Giants. So Bills and Giants.
All right, which one's a pretender? Which one's an absolute fraud, do you think?
Oh, the Giants.
Okay, so the Giants excite you the most, but you also realize at the same time they're a pretender and it's not going to be like this for very long.
Well, I'm like excited, impressed that they're 2-0. They found a way to win 2 games. I think Brian Daboll is the right coach, but they're not like a legit contender. They are very much a pretender.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if they made the playoffs. I think they'll start losing games, maybe even Monday night, but their schedule, now they got Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. Who knows? Maybe the Giants will be 3-0.
That's right. So you're going with the Brian Daboll connection there with the Bills and the Giants, which, by the way, game of the week is going to be Bills and Miami in Miami. So first place in the AFC East is on the line here, Ross. Buffalo 6-point favorite on the DK Sportsbook. Currently the second highest total on the board at 52.5. What's your betting approach to this one?
Honestly, man, it's a stay away.
Really?
Stay away from me. You know, if I had to play it, I probably would take the Dolphins and the points because they're playing at home, because it's a short week for the Bills, and because the Dolphins are pretty good, and 6 points is a lot. But, man, the Bills are just so good.
They are.
The Bills just look so good. This is not one of my plays for this week on the Even Money podcast. It's a stay away. But if you're forcing me to give a strong lean, I would lean to the Dolphins with the points.
I mean, if the Dolphins can pull off this upset, Mike McDaniel, we should go ahead and just crown him NFL Coach of the Year, right?
You know what we should actually do is bet on him to be Coach of the Year now in case they win it, so we get it at much better odds than waiting until after the game.
All right, well, let's not sleep on Doug Peterson either because, you know, leading the way in Jacksonville, and that's the division of the working man right now. The AFC South, it's an absolute juggernaut, Ross. The Jags sitting pretty, would be in the playoffs if the season ended today, okay? But not the Colts, who, dare I say, miss Carson Wentz right now, Ross. What do you think?
So first of all, why is it the working man division?
Because these dudes got to grind it out, you know? That's
okay,
why.
All right. Because I thought you were going to say because they're mediocre.
No.
Or they stink or they're not good. It's a terrible division. Terrible. I think that's probably the best thing the Colts have going for them right now. They might, I got to check the DK Sportsbook. They might still be the favorites to win that division, which says a lot about a lot. I don't think there will be a team in this division with a winning record. I think 8-9 probably wins the division, and it might be America's team.
Yeah.
EMERICA''S, America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, based on what we saw on Sunday. Greg Cosell mentioned on today's Ross Tucker Football Podcast, he's seeing that improvement from your boy Trevor Lawrence. He's getting closer to being where we all thought he could be, thanks to Doug Peterson.
So Colts plus 150 to win the division, Titans plus 180. Jags still sitting there at plus 300, which Mike Golick Jr. said yesterday, that's free money.
It's not free money, but that would be my bet.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my bet would be the Jags at plus 300 because to me, it's a toss-up between those three teams. So why not take the team with by far the best odds? Maybe I'll drop, what did that one guy drop on? Like 83 grand? Maybe I'll drop 83 grand on the Jags. No big deal.
Yeah, DK Sportsbook took that 83 grand bet for a payout of north of $333,000 on the Jags to win the AFC South. But what's the biggest issue in Indy, team that Jacksonville just shut out because they're now 5.5-point underdogs at home against the Chiefs this weekend?
Probably the O-line. I mean, obviously not having Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce at receiver hurt them tremendously against the Jaguars, but Matt Ryan needs a good offensive line. Matt Ryan is a strider. He's not a mover. He needs to be able to step up in the pocket, and that's probably why I'm so concerned about him, Emerson. The same issues I had with them coming into the year, left tackle and right guard, are problems. That's when I really get worried about a team, right? When the concerns I had going into the year looked like problems, that is a problem. That's what's going on with the Colts. They'll be better. They'll figure out a way to be better than this, but I don't think they're winning double-digit games. I don't think anybody in this division is winning double-digit games.
Well, give me the AFC South over the AFC North 7 days a week. The Browns 4-point favorites, speaking of the AFC North here. Browns 4-point favorites at home against Pittsburgh tonight, dude, as we kick off the Week 3 slate. Do you even trust Cleveland to cover this spread after its epic collapse against the Jets on Sunday?
No, I don't. I don't really understand the spread. By the way, I know you listen or watch on YouTube, youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL, but on the Even Money podcast, I got the Steelers getting 5.5 Tuesday morning, okay? DraftKings Sportsbook, look it up. It was 5.5 Tuesday morning. That's called closing line value. I still love them at 4. This is a field goal game, toss-up game either way. This is a toss-up game, could go either way, Steelers, Browns. Whoever wins, wins by 3 points. So, don't need to be a math major. Take the Steelers and the 4 points.
How soon until Kenny Pickett's under center in Pittsburgh? What do you think?
Next game.
Next game?
Yeah, I think unless Trubisky plays really well tonight, which is possible because the Browns just drop coverages like it's going out of style, so it's possible. But unless Trubisky plays well tonight, I think the Steelers, no matter what they say, will say, you know what? Like, the AFC North is winnable. We got a pretty decent roster. You know, Pickett looked good in the preseason. We have an extra long time before the next game. We got 10 days. Let's go with the rookie. Put him in.
All right, so what other spread catches your eye this week? There's some pretty tight ones, and then there's a good chunk of them that are close to 6 points to a touchdown.
The real America's team, the Detroit Lions, not the Cowboys, the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
You know why they're America's team? Because I don't know anybody that's not rooting for them. Literally everybody I know is excited about the Lions, wants them to win, call it a hard knocks thing, call it a lovable loser thing. I don't know what it is. I like the Lions in this game. Why are they getting 6 points? I don't know what the spread is now. When I last looked, it was 6 points. Why are they getting so many points from the Vikings? Based on what? Vikings have a short week. They just got thrashed. Lions look awesome. Give me the Lions and the points, please. Thank you.
Yeah, they're riding a 4-0 ATS record against their divisional opponents as well, so you may be onto something there, dude. What about a player you expect to go off in Week 3? Just going back to that Bills-Miami game real quick, like that game looks to be a dream DFS matchup.
It does. I'm not going to pick a guy in that game. In fact, I'm not going to pick a player. I'm going to pick 2 players.
Oh.
I got 2 for you, okay? Drake London and or Garrett Wilson. 2 rookie wide receivers that have already proven to me they're legit. Drake London is the guy they're trying to feed in Atlanta. Garrett Wilson had an awesome game against the Browns for the Jets. He could have had even more if Flacco didn't miss him a couple times. Drake London, Falcons receiver. Garrett Wilson, Jets receiver. Get them now before DraftKings figures it out and starts pricing them higher where they should be. Get the rookies now while the getting's good.
I mean, Marcus Mariota has been looking to Drake London like left and right in the first 2 weeks of the season, which unfortunately is why Kyle Pitts only has 4 catches in the first 2 games, man. Marcus Mariota's been like the one read guy, and then all of a sudden he just wants to take off or doesn't look at Kyle Pitts. Can they get Kyle Pitts involved a little more there?
They
Please?
will. They will this week. There's enough chatter about it. They drafted him crazy high. I know why they're throwing the ball to London. London's a good player,
Yeah.
but they got to get the ball to Pitts.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts was your 4th overall pick last year. What games are you calling this week?
Oh, speaking of Detroit and grit, I am calling UB at Eastern Michigan Saturday at noon, CBS Sports Network. It's a little maction. Eastern Michigan's field is gray. The players literally bring out 2 sledgehammers to knock down a concrete wall to come out of the tunnel. It's hilarious. It's amazing. And it'll be on TV with me, 12 o'clock, CBS Sports Network, Saturday.
Khalil Mack, the pride of the university at Buffalo. All right, before you take off too, what's going on in the podcast land? Because I know you've already mentioned it. You were talking Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson with Greg Cosell. Anything else to tease?
Yeah, we're just dominating is really what it comes down to. You need to listen to Wednesday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast because we had Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus talking about the rookies that look like the real deal and the rookies that are struggling. Even Money Podcast, the betting one, I was up 9 units last week. My co-host Steve Fezzik was up 7 units. So unless you dislike money, you should listen to the most popular betting podcast in the galaxy, the Even Money Podcast. I could go on, but really just follow me on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, Twitter, Instagram. I think I'm on TikTok, Facebook.com/Ross Tucker NFL. And either your wildest dreams will come true or you'll be able to listen to some good podcasts.
Love it, Ross. Love you. Mean it, man. Keep crushing it. From one beefy, bruising lineman to another. We got Mike Golick, who interviewed Zeke Elliott on Golick and Smetty this week. Cowboys have a divisional matchup on Monday night with the Giants, one of Ross's favorite teams. And if you're thinking ahead to who you'll roster in that showdown, by the way, Zeke sharing a little insight about how he and Tony Pollard split carries on Golick and Smetty.
So, and then for you, a lot of talk this year going into how that backfield was split between you still obviously being the man and Tony Pollard getting more time as well. We see it more and more. I'm sure you've seen it through the years. It's now your 7th year in the league of how teams are kind of going to that 2-back system. And I know players want to play, players want to be out on the field, but your thought on how it's kind of evolving into that now with the 2 backs.
I think Tony, he's a great player, and I think he's earned the right to be on the field. And I think, as a football team, you gotta get your best players on the field. And I think he's a guy that he needs touches. Just how explosive he is, and every time he touches the ball, it's just you gotta hold your breath. Or the other team has to hold their breath, because he can take it the distance anytime.
Is there a thing, like, for me it was the D-line, and we'd certainly have a rotation system when I was on the D-line between 5-6 guys. For a running back, is it, you get that hot hand and you want to stay in the game to kind of keep it going and then it gets switched up at times? Or is it the running back coach or whoever's deciding who goes in to get a feel of how to use you guys?
I think it's Coach Pete just kind of getting the feel on how to use us. And, if a guy gets a hot hand, then, he's hot. You got to leave him in there. And, that's just kind of how it goes. But I think Coach Pete does a good job of just kind of managing that.
All right, you know the drill. Check out the Golick and Smetty podcast on the DraftKings YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And you can download the podcast wherever you do your podcast thing.
Wherever you get them.
I'm a Spotify guy there.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wait, what else? What else?
Yeah,
Hold on. So, what they covered this week?
Yeah.
The Asia Wilson thing, Tua. They had a major show announcement, I'm told. I have not heard it yet.
Speaking of major.
Okay, this is it. This is the segment.
Major League Baseball is nearing its postseason, as we all know. A couple series going down tonight could swing the playoff picture.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
Yeah.
the
Jays. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I'd like you to go.
Okay. The Jays currently hold down that top wild card spot. As you can see, they're facing the Rays. Cleveland has a 6-game lead over the White Sox in the AL Central. So let's bring in DK contributors Steve Buchanan, Nick Fryer, and Gary and Thorne for Cover the Bases. And you have a question for Steve.
Yeah, I certainly do. Bukes, what's a bet from Jays, Rays, or Guardians, White Sox that you like tonight?
Yeah, taking Shane Bieber to go over 18.5 outs recorded tonight is at minus 115. This is a number he's gone over in 18 of the 28 starts that he's made this season, including 2 of the 4 starts that he's made against the White Sox. One of those games was a complete game because that offense stinks. The 2 starts that he didn't go over, though, he wins 6 innings, so he literally was just an out away from clearing this number. So he's been in that wheelhouse every single time he's pitched against the White Sox this season. The White Sox have only scored 1 run in 3 of the 4 starts that they face against Bieber. They have not been able to figure it out, really, aside from 1 start this year. So give me Bieber to go over 18.5 outs recorded against the White Sox, minus 115.
Nick, where are you leaning?
Yeah, I like the Guardians just straight up in this one. Look, I think Shane Bieber's strikeout prop is a bit appealing, but the White Sox have only had 4 Ks in the last 2 times they saw him. Obviously, there was that one rough outing. I do think that Steve's play is a good one as well. That was one I was considering. But just keeping things simple here because Johnny Cueto, look, he's been fine at home, but he's been worse at home than he has been on the road. 3.89 ERA there this season. Hasn't mattered for Shane Bieber where he's been. And the big thing for me, too, is that Cueto doesn't get a whole lot of strikeouts, and he's facing a lineup that does not strike out a lot against right-handed pitching. I feel like that's a recipe for disaster.
All right, Gare Bear, talk to me.
Yeah, well, if Steve's bet is chocolate and Nick's bet is peanut butter, I'm putting those 2 bets together and making us a little plus money Reese's Cup here. We got Shane Bieber to record a win at plus 115. It's basically the same level of analysis that these guys have just given you. But Bieber's been absolutely fantastic this season. Remember back in spring training when he was only throwing 90 miles per hour and we were all like, oh my God, can Shane Bieber be Shane Bieber if he doesn't have his fastball velocity? Yes, he can. He's been perfectly fine. He's actually been arguably the best pitcher in the American League the last 2 months. His last 10 starts, he's got an ERA well under 2. It is at 1.68, a 2.54 FIP, and an 8.2 strikeout to walk ratio. Cleveland's bats have been really hot lately. The last 2 weeks, they are 2nd in baseball in runs scored and 6th in WOBA in that span of time. And also very important to this bet, the White Sox have completely given up. This is a team that is just, you could see it after that extra innings game. They're just done. They know they can't win. They know they can't get into the playoffs. They know this is Cleveland's division. I think their heart's just not in it anymore, if I'm being honest.
What an absolute disappointment. The expectations for them are sky high entering this year, Garion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they play in the AL Central.
Yep.
Like, you have to win the AL Central with that level of talent.
Well, apparently you can't. Nick, for second base, let's talk player props. So which one do you like for tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to go with one that I've gone to a lot all year, and I think it's worked out for a lot of people. Yordan Alvarez going over 1.5 total bases, plus 110 for that one. He's got a 563 ISO against right-handed pitching this month. The big thing for me, though, that I like a lot here, 51.9% hard contact rate and just an 18.9% ground ball rate against right-handed pitching throughout the month. I know that Kyle Bradish is the guy going tonight, and he does have reverse splits, but I don't care. He's not good enough for me to be concerned for Yordan Alvarez in this matchup.
All right, Gary, and a player prop that is standing out to you.
Yeah, let's go back to the outs recorded well. I like Michael Wacha over 15.5 outs recorded tonight against the Yankees. It's minus 110. I know everyone's focusing on maybe a particular Yankee and his props tonight. However, Wacha's been really good as of late. His last 7 starts, he's got an ERA well below 3, and his FIP, which has been about a run and a half higher than his ERA for most of the season, is actually at 2.79 in that 7-start span. And most importantly, he's gone over this prop in all 7 of those starts. In fact, Wacha has gone over 15.5 outs recorded pretty easily in 13 of his last 17 starts. So I think with how he's pitched so far this season, this is a really, really low number. I was expecting more like 17.5, if I'm being honest. So I think there's a lot of wiggle room here with Wacha, even in a tough matchup.
All right, Stephen, take us home.
So we got to go to the Seattle Mariners, who are, on the brink of clinching a playoff spot very soon, but they're playing a little possum right now. They're not winning a lot of games because they want to solidify that number 6 seed because they go and then they just run right over the Guardians. That's the big plan. I talked to the team. That's what they want to do. But for today, we're just going to go with George Kirby over 5.5 strikeouts, and it's at even money. Is this like a mistake? Why is this only 5.5? He's gotten over this number in all 3 starts that he's made against the Athletics. 9, 6, and 9 in those games. He's striking out over a batter per inning, 9.4 K9 on the year. That's over the span of 117 innings pitched. And Oakland has one of the highest K rates in the league against righties, 23.3%. What am I missing here? You know, the only thing I'm missing, the extra money that I'll be getting into my account later when this hits at even money. So that's what I'm missing. So I'm taking George Kirby to go over 5.5 strikeouts.
All right, to third base we go. What's a run line? Let's see, run total, money line bet that you feel like targeting tonight, Garion?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under 7.5 in Milwaukee and Cincinnati. This is kind of like a sneaky good pitching matchup. Hunter Green hasn't thrown a lot in the second half of the season. He's been dealing with some injuries, but when he has been on the mound, he's been really, really good. His last 5 starts, he's got a 1.85 FIP and a 35% strikeout rate. On the other side, we've got Brandon Woodruff, who in his last 5 starts, a 2.68 FIP and a 31% strikeout rate. So these aren't only 2 pitchers who have been pitching really well as of late. They are suppressing opponent contact, which is really the most important thing you can do as a pitcher. And then you've got 2 offenses that are just kind of underwhelming in general. Obviously, the Reds are much more underwhelming than the Brewers, especially a Brewers team that has hit right-handed pitching better than left-handed pitching this season. But across, going back to the start of the month, so September 1st, the Reds are 28th in WRC plus, and the Brewers are 15th. They're a sub-average team compared to the rest of the league with just a 96 WRC plus in that span of time. So I think you've got 2 teams that are just kind of struggling to score runs right now, going up against 2 really, really hot pitchers.
Steven?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over for the Cardinals and Padres this afternoon. Over 8 runs. It feels like a really low run total for 2 pitchers that have just been struggling all throughout the season. Jack Flaherty just recently came back, really still trying to get into form. I mean, he's allowed 7 runs over his last 2 starts, and that's against the Reds and the Pirates. If you're struggling against those offense, what's going to happen when you face the Padres here? Then you got Joe Musgrove, who's been very, very hittable in the second half. This was somebody that was stellar in the first half of the season, but he's already allowed more earned runs in the second half of the season than he did in the first half, and he's pitched about 50% less of the innings already in the second half. So he's been struggling as well. Almost a 350 WOBA in the second half too as well. He's been getting hit really hard. Obviously, this Cardinals offense is loaded. We have the MVP and then the MVP runner up in this lineup here. So I think this game goes over 8 runs. I was surprised that this total was so low, especially with the struggles of both starting pitchers.
Nick, run line, run total, or money line bet you're targeting?
Yeah, I'm going to go with money line actually in the game that Garen was talking about earlier, Brewers, Reds, and I'm actually going to go with the Reds on the money line here at plus 130. Look, the Reds, I understand they're not necessarily the greatest offense, but they are top 15 in ISO against right-handed pitching this month, and their K rate has been sub 20 during that span as well against right-handed pitching. I know the Brewers have been hitting for more power against right-handed pitching, but they're also striking out a lot, and that actually plays into Hunter Green's hand, and Gary was talking about him before. Shoved last time against St. Louis, and I know they've been struggling against righties a bit, but they do not strike out against right-handed pitching. So seeing what he did in that outing, I feel confident that he can lead his team in this one against Woodruff.
All right, home plate. Finally, favorite DFS play for tonight. So this could be value, top price hitter, pitcher. Like, who is just knocking it out of the park, Steve?
Yeah, I'm just going right back to the Beebs, going against the White Sox here tonight in the 4 starts that he's made against this White Sox club, averaging 20.8 DraftKings fantasy points. Not striking out guys like at the rate he was. He's striking out less than a batter of an inning against the White Sox, 22 strikeouts in 27 2/3 innings. But that being said, this team really, aside from 1 start, has not been able to touch him all season long. I know he's one of the more expensive guys at $10,100, but kind of like Garion said, this White Sox team just looks like they absolutely have mailed it in for the rest of the season. So give me Bieber in what should be his 5th start against the White Sox, and a good one here tonight.
Steve's giving us all Bieber fever. All right, Nick, where are you going?
I'm going to go back to that Reds game. I'm going to go with Hunter Green at 7.5K. I think he's the best value pitcher option that you have tonight. Strikeout potential that you don't see in this range quite often. And like I said, he struck out a ton against that Cardinals team on Saturday, got 11 in that one. They just don't strike out at all against right-handed pitching. So to see him get that number, now he's going up against the Brewers. Again, a tough lineup still against right-handed pitching, but that 25% strikeout rate against righties this month is very promising.
All right, Garion.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Green was probably my favorite dollar-for-dollar pitcher on this slate. Like Nick said, he's just too cheap given that strikeout upside. But I do also want to point out Julio Urias, who I don't know if it's because the Dodgers, we've just known for the last 4.5 months that they were going to win their division, or because we knew they were going to win 110 games. We've kind of tuned them out a little bit. But Urias has been fantastic in the second half of the season. He's got a 1.31 ERA since the All-Star game, and that's a span of 62 innings. So we are dealing with a pretty large sample size at this point. He's been virtually unhittable, and he's going up tonight against a Diamondbacks lineup that, while they have been much better since their youth infusion, still are very left-handed heavy and have not hit left-handed pitching well this season. So I think Urias at $9,700 is also in a really nice spot on a pitching slate that I'll have to admit is very deep tonight.
All right, Nick and Garion, you two are free to go. Appreciate the help. Steven, stick around because we want to transition here to Thursday night football. We're going to bring in Julian Edlow here too because tonight, NFC North divisional battle. You got the Steelers, you got the Browns going at it here. The Steelers getting below average quarterback play from Mitch Trubisky. They'll get the first rounder, Kenny Pickett, eventually. The Browns seeing Jacoby Brissett. He's playing pretty well right now as they wait for Deshaun Watson, although Nick Chubb has been the driving force of this offense. Hey, Jules.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Where did I come from?
How did that work?
Julian
Wow.
Edlow's here.
Way to
Steve
be a
Buchanan is still
professional.
here. So, yeah, we got the boys.
So because we're going to get into the DFS side of this thing with Jeff and Pierce coming up because there's a Millie Maker on DraftKings. You got to make sure you get a showdown lineup in. But we'll start with some best bets. And, looking at this game total right now on the DK Sportsbook, what's
it's
it?
low
Yeah.
here.
Oh, so it's 38 now. It was 38.
It was 38 and a half, yeah.
Yep. So now we know the Steelers have struggled, to say the least. They've put up, I think, less than 16 points or 16 points their first two games.
Well, they got to
17, but that was only because of a pick six, right? I think in the first
well,
round.
beating the Bengals, they went over 20 in that, but that was in that overtime game, 21-20. So they needed overtime to get there.
All right. So then tonight,
23 to
is
20.
this total though? As it's a tick down now, 38. Is this too low to go under?
I don't think it's too low to go under, and that's why it's been dropping from 39 and a half all the way down to 38 here. I'll give you some numbers. Mike Tomlin on road unders in his career, 70, 50, and 1. That's 58%. Kevin Stefanski unders when the total is 44 or less. He's 6 and 2 to the under. Mitch Trubisky when the total is 43 or less. He is 16 and 5 to the under. So when it looks ugly, it's probably going to be ugly. And this game, just short week, a couple of grinder teams with not much of an offense, not great at the quarterback position. Feels like a game that is maybe going to get a little gross.
Yeah, Bukes. Pittsburgh Steelers team total on the DK Sportsbook, 16 and a half. Again, the only reason they eclipsed 17 points in week 1 against Cincinnati was because of Minkah Fitzpatrick's pick 6.
Yeah, I mean, last week this was at 40 and a half, and it's just been going down since then. And then number two, primetime unders have been the play so far in this season. They're 6 and 1 so far this season. Weather's not going to be great in this one. I'm not one that always looks into that,
Steve.
that BS, but winds up to 32 miles per hour. I'm going to make a difference when you have two inaccurate quarterbacks on both sides, Jacoby Brissett and Mitch Trubisky. Who thought this was a good idea to be a primetime game? Nobody knows. This is what we're going to be force-fed tonight here, but I don't see a lot of offense in this one. I don't think it's still too low to take the under in this one. It's getting to that point. So if you're thinking about taking the under, I would probably do that sooner rather than later. But yeah, I think under 38 is still the play here.
One quick other trend, and this is from Action Network, on Thursday night unders, the last 21 Thursday night totals that have been set between 37 and 40, the under is 18, 3, and 1. If you care about where the numbers sit.
All right, so we
Yeah, I
said
do.
it's going to
Okay.
be a mess tonight, right? So who do we think is scoring, though? Chubb, -105 for an anytime touchdown. Do you have a bet on a touchdown scorer, Steve? You can get, let's see, Kareem Hunt here for +150.
Yeah, I mean, taking Nick Chubb, wow, what a great analysis there. You know, you should really have somebody tell you to do that one there.
Yeah,
Let's get a little
yeah.
down and dirty here. How about the Browns DST to score a touchdown at 6-1? If we're talking about a messy game, a game that could be a lot on the ground, some turnovers potential, then I'll take the better defense to score a touchdown on this one, getting that at 6-1 odds. Myles Garrett is going to be playing in this game. They won't have Clowney, which obviously will take some pressure off of Trubisky, but Myles Garrett is going to be in this one here. So I have no problem taking a shot at some plus money odds here at 6-1 for the Browns DST to score a touchdown.
+600 for that one. Jules, where are you going?
I mean, I was kind of going to say, if you're going to get wild here, going with either defense makes sense. It's going to be that kind of game, it feels like. And Steve kind of already laid that out. So I will say, if you're going with a player, I don't know how far down the board you can go. I would just eat the chalk with Nick Chubb. You're looking at a guy that scored 3 times last week. Now, if he only scored twice and slid down at the goal line, the Browns would have won that game, but he didn't. But still, home favorite on a short week, a guy that we know is going to get the ball. If you're going to bet a player, Chubb's still close to even money. I would still go that way.
All right, so Browns DST +600 anytime touchdown. Steelers going to be +800 if anybody wants to take that.
All right, so is there another player prop, though, that you like here in this game tonight, Jules? I kind of like what Jesse mentioned, though, with like Kareem Hunt. With this being like a short week, though, maybe Stefanski kind of evens out the load a little bit, so you could get like 43.5 rushing yards as his total there for Hunt.
I'm not going anything yardage-wise
Okay.
in this game. I'm playing
Because of the weather.
Mostly because they stink, but the weather doesn't. The weather doesn't
weather
help.
won't help, yeah.
So I'm going more on volume here and more on the poor quarterback play. So if I'm going with a prop, it's either Mitch Trubisky to throw an interception. Last I looked, the over half an interception had been bet up from -110 to -125. May have even gone up since then. Wouldn't surprise me, but Trubisky to throw a pick is one that I'm looking at. Still at -125 there on DraftKings Sportsbook. And the other one would be the carries on Nick Chubb. -120 for over 15.5 carries. He's had 17 and went over 20 last week. 17 in week 1 and went over 20 last week against the Jets. His workload, even on the short week, seems to be pretty safe. I don't know how many yards he'll get, but I'm comfortable going over 15.5 carries for Nick Chubb.
All right, Bukes, what do you want here?
Yeah, so you can get Mitch Trubisky to go under 200.5 passing yards. That's a number he has yet to even cross this season. He hasn't gone over 194 yards. What, this is going to be the game that all of a sudden he goes over with, he finds the fountain of youth and figures out how to throw all of a sudden now? I don't think so. Like I said, Myles Garrett is going to be playing in this game. When Trubisky has been under pressure this season, he is only 5 for 17 in that scenario. And then you look at what he's doing when he is throwing the ball. He's averaging just 5.1 yards per pass attempt. That is the lowest in the league amongst quarterbacks who have played at least 2 games so far this season. He's just not throwing downfield. He's not really throwing far at all. So to think that now all of a sudden he's going to reach that 200 passing yard threshold, I don't see it here. So give me under 200.5 passing yards for Trubisky.
All right, Steve, where are you going for the game bet here? Browns 4-point favorites, +155 for the Steelers money line if you like the upset. Steelers have covered 4 in a row inside the division, including week 1 at Cincinnati, and they're 5-1 against the spread in this past 6 meetings with Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just taking the Steelers at +4 here. I mean, I don't love it, but I don't really love either side, quite honestly. But if we're thinking this is going to be an extremely low-scoring game with a total that continues to fall and probably will continue to fall, then I'm just going to take the Steelers with the +4 here on the points. It's going to be a close game, and not because it's been because of good play, just because I think this is just going to be a sloppy all-around game in this one. If there's going to be high winds too, problem for kickers, and that's all we've seen all season long is how these kickers can't kick at all. So to say that the Browns are going to win by 4, could they? Most certainly, but that's not something I think is going to end up happening that I want to bet on. So give me the Steelers at +4, but just an ugly game overall.
Jules, you like the Steelers here?
Yeah, if I got to bet it, I'm going to go with the dog. Frankly, I might not bet anything in this game. In my best bets article on the DK Playbook, I'm writing up the under on the game, and I'm writing up the Chubb carries like we talked about. No side, but if you made me play it, it's going to be taking the points with the Steelers. Tomlin is 65% as an underdog against the spread. And then you got Stefanski, who, as coach of the Browns, he's 1-11 against the spread in the division in the AFC North. So all the trends point to the dog, the weather, the division, everything points to the dog. So I'm going that way if you made me bet the game.
All right, guys, good stuff. Thanks for helping us out with the sportsbook side of tonight's matchup, which everyone seems very excited about. We will talk about the DFS side of this and a nice little fat Millie Maker contest you guys can get into with Jeff and Pierce right after this.
Lamar, Zeke, Stephon, you've all been summoned to the Kevin verse.
You gotta be kidding me.
You're here because you're on my DraftKings Rainmakers fantasy team.
I liked him better when he was tiny.
Lamar, keep talking and I'll put you on a tiny bench. I've collected your digital player cards, and you're gonna help me build my NFT fantasy franchise so I can start crushing the competition. I need you all at 100%. Zeke, you're gonna catch a cold in that crop top. Maybe you should consider putting your belly button away. Hey, Lamar, you getting enough sleep? I seen you posting pictures in the club.
You stalking me?
Diggs, you gotta keep your hands moist so they stay soft. Nice and moist.
Please, stop saying moist. We done here, man.
Well, go ahead. There's the exit. Ha!
Build a roster by opening packs and joining drops and win a share of over $1 million in prizes every week of the NFL season. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app to get your free full roster starter pack. DraftKings Rainmakers Football. Build, play, win.
Like you said.
Hey, we teased it.
Fat Millie Maker. 2.5 million Thursday Night Millionaire contest. $15 entry, guys. So, get on that in the DK lobby because guess what's going to first place?
$1 million?
$1 million.
Is that why we call it a Millie Maker?
A Millie Maker. Yeah, $1 million to first. So people, though, might be wondering, well, how am I going to enter this? What's my lineup going to look like? So to answer those questions, we have DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich here with us to take a DFS look at the Thursday night showdown slate.
Look at Pierce has his Browns-colored tie on tonight.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe
go Browns.
Yeah, I could sense that. I'm shocked it's not a Seattle Seahawks tie there, Jeff, that he's wearing. Yes. All right, so last week on Thursday Night Football, you may have remembered this. We asked if you were going to consider rostering both Mahomes and Herbert, and Jeff answered that question wrong. But this week, we're asking you if you should consider fading both quarterbacks. So what's your approach under center tonight, Jeff?
Look, no, this is we have a low-scoring game. Who's going to touch the ball every play in a low-scoring game? It's going to be the quarterbacks. So, I mean, that's where your guaranteed points are going to come from. We're not sure what these receivers are going to do or what the running backs are going to do necessarily. I mean, we're probably going to get a heavy dose of Nick Chubb, but I mean, he's going into a pretty good line in Pittsburgh. You should be thinking about rostering both quarterbacks because both these guys will run a little bit. If we get like a 17-14 game, which we're kind of projected to, all of a sudden those 10 points that the quarterbacks put up, it's really valuable because nobody else did anything either. And, it kind of brings the defenses into play too. But yeah, you absolutely should be looking at both quarterbacks in your lineup. And just from a price perspective as well, both quarterbacks extremely cheaper than the ones we saw last week, Emerson, which I did answer correctly. You just weren't listening as per usual. So no, my answer is yes. You should be definitely looking to get both quarterbacks in. What you don't want to do is go like heavy, like double receiver stacks.
Yeah.
And trying to predict like a 400-yard passing game for one of them.
Yeah, Jeff, I think last night too on the slate, like you and I and Reed were talking about this game a little bit too, and I think you mentioned you wouldn't be shocked if Kenny Pickett was actually put in this game at some point. So Pierce,
his little hands.
I love you guys do have like the same
little
size
hands. We got the same size hands.
Little sausages.
Yeah.
Pierce, is it crazy to think that if you're going to build multiple lineups tonight, maybe you actually have one or two with Pickett in there just in case? Because I think we saw this in a game with like Mariota a few years ago, right?
I would say it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. Tomlin is not really that erratic of a coach, and for him to pull the string on Trubisky 3 games in, even though they're not playing too terribly, and then to do it on a short week where Pickett has even less time to prepare, I don't think you're putting him into a situation where he can be really successful. And if you're really trying to build a guy in the long run, don't think this is the place where you necessarily want to insert him. You might want to wait a little bit longer. As for fading these quarterbacks, if everyone wants to fade them because they're not good quarterbacks, and that is true, then it's an opportunity to play them. And as Jeff has mentioned, the price is low. You could get a little bit lower ownership than normal. Cleveland has a pretty strong secondary. They've got really talented players back there, but as we've seen the first 2 weeks, miscommunication or whatever they want to say that it is, they're allowing big plays. And if we're not expecting a lot of offense, a couple big plays from Mitch Trubisky could actually get the job done, although the likelihood of that happening is not that great. And we've seen Brissett run the ball. So there's an opportunity there. I definitely think you should consider at least rostering one of them, and based on price, maybe even captaining one of them.
Dude, the
God.
offense is terrible, man. Yards per play 31st, first downs per game 31st, drop back success rate 25th, yards per passing attempt 32nd. Pierce, they're not playing great, the Steelers.
Yeah, neither team are playing great, but they're still alive in the division. The Bengals aren't playing great. The Ravens aren't playing great. The Steelers are doing basically what did you expect Trubisky to do at the beginning of the season? Take them 17-0 or just keep them in games? They're in games. They're doing exactly what they expected from them. Okay,
well, that leads right into our next question. Who's going to be your captain, Pierce? Which one of these QBs are you taking?
Yeah, well, let's play it safe. Let's not go crazy. Just take Nick Chubb. He's averaging almost 6 yards per carry. Had 3 touchdowns in the last game, 3 catches for 26 yards. He's the safest play on the board. And based on talent, why would you go in any other direction? And you expect the Browns pretty much to just go with the simple game plan on a short week. They would go with the simple game plan given who their quarterback is and who their pass catchers are. And also, given that they kind of blew a game last week, you probably want to go the safest, most secure route, and that's just feed the ball to Chubb. You might worry that on a short week they save his legs, but the Browns, a little bit of rumbling after last week's disaster, so you probably just want to keep feeding Chubb.
I mean, hell, they should be 2-0 right now, Pierce.
Yeah.
They should be. The Browns.
Good.
Jeff, Pierce is spending a lot of salary on Nick Chubb. He's going to cost you $18,000 in the captain spot, so who are you going to captain?
Without a doubt, that's probably the safest play. But at the same time, there's definitely other options here, and I think that Jacoby Brissett. I think we've besmirched his name a little bit too much on this show. What did Brissett do poorly last week? He completed over 80% of his passes. He had a receiver drop a touchdown. He had Peoples-Jones barely just miss one because his toe didn't drag enough, apparently. I thought that was a touchdown. Brissett played amazing last week. He's going up against the Steelers defense, who's bottom 5 in terms of just everything they're allowing to the wide receiver position. He's got 2 good wideouts in Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper to work with here. I think that Nick Chubb is obviously, like I said, it's a safe play. They're going to involve Nick Chubb in the offense, but this is also a Steelers front that's just, they don't allow much on the ground. I think that their whole game plan here is going to be, let's force the ball, let's force the Browns to air it out and see what happens if we can't get a couple picks. But I think Brissett is up for that challenge. I really like rostering him here. He's averaged over about 25 rush yards per game as well. We like that. He's going to take off the ball 4 or 5 times a game. That just adds. We've seen Brissett in Indianapolis be an absolute red zone threat. I think this is a spot where Brissett could pop up with a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. I really like him as a captain.
All right, Jeff, so if you're going to captain Brissett, save you some cash, who are you stacking with him?
Oh, I mean, and this is where we get, this is where Pierce and I shine. You can obviously, Amari Cooper can be in there, but do you really want to spend all on the stud wide receivers in a game with a 38-point total? No, this is where we start to get cheaper. This is where the people, Jesse, start to show. Donovan Peoples-Jones is the target here. This guy's out there on every play. He's played almost as many snaps as Amari Cooper, and you look at Donovan Peoples-Jones' route tree this year, it's well expanded from what we've seen in the past. This guy used to just be a go deep kid and clear it out for everybody else. No, they're using him all over the field this year. He didn't have a target last week. He got lost in the sauce. The Sauce Johnson, really good. Sauce Gardner, really good coverage on him. He just about allowed that one touchdown, but Peoples-Jones will bounce back here. I have absolutely no doubt about it. 5,400. My big call here, 75 yards and a touchdown for Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's your value target with Brissett.
This offense can't support multiple receivers per week until Deshaun Watson comes back.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
They just can't do it. Brissett.
Pierce, so if you're captaining Chubb, I know that you're stacking him with some value, right?
You get a little bit of value. The obvious correlation with the running back is always to play the defense. So I will consider the Browns defense as my play. They've got tons of talent. They've got first-round picks all over that defense. And for the most part, you look at what they did against Carolina, other than a couple of mistakes. They shut down Carolina. Again, against the Jets, they were completely in control of that game and shut down the Jets, except for a couple of mistakes. And you can deal with that. You can give up points. You can give up yards. It's not really going to hurt you. You want sacks. You want turnovers. Now, ideally, those mistakes come at the end of the game, and the Browns control the game for the most part, and that allows Nick Chubb to run all over the Steelers. But even then, I'm really not worried about these mistakes. If you look at what Trubisky has done, he's faced a 13% pressure rate. That is the third best protection in all of football, and he hasn't really been able to do anything. So I don't think Mitch and the Steelers really are going to hurt this defense. So Chubb and the Browns defense seem to correlate and make for a pretty good stack.
All right, Jeff, this is actually where you two shine when we talk about value play. So last week, I think Pierce was brave enough to give a $200 guy. I don't know if we're going to see a $200 guy take the field tonight. But Gunnar Olszewski, he's $800. Maybe he can make up for his huge muffed punt last week, which allowed the Patriots to get their first win of the season. What do you think, Jeff?
Was it Steve who said these kickers can't kick?
Yeah, it certainly was.
High-end analysis from Buchanan. Gunnar Olszewski, I mean, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have a sub 1K guy here. I think that if you're going to go with the target, you keep on with the Pittsburgh. You keep trying to attack the Pittsburgh secondary. Anthony Schwartz, again, like no targets last week. Okay, but the snaps aren't big. But Anthony Schwartz is basically playing like the Donovan Peoples-Jones role from last year, which is go deep, kid. And I think that against the secondary, the go deep ball might actually hit. Schwartz has a little bit of talent as well. No one's going to play him. He's 2,800. If you're captaining Jacoby Brissett, again, throwing him in a lineup and just connecting on that like 50-yard completion in a game where maybe there's only 23 points scored, that is really going to help your lineup. So Anthony Schwartz is a guy I would target here, but I don't have a ton of confidence, as you can probably tell, in this play and really any play under like 4K tonight, because there just ain't going to be like that many big plays in most likelihood.
All right, Pierce, we did have a fullback touchdown last week, and then who was it? Josh Palmer scored. So you could go down the board a little bit.
Justin Watson was the cheapie that broke the GPP. I'm not going to go that cheap. I'll take George Pickens and follow Jeff's philosophy of let's get the deep pass. And the Browns allowed several deep balls against Carolina. Same thing against the Jets. So although the Browns defense is strong, I think there's going to be an opportunity for a deep pass. You look at the Steelers pass catchers, and Claypool runs the underneath routes. Freiermuth is going to be underneath the intermediate. Deontay Johnson might run some deep routes to intermediate, but Pickens is your deep threat target, 16.8 ADOT. It is a little risky expecting Mitch Trubisky to complete one of those passes, but he should have the protection. So far, he's had time in the pocket to go deep. You just hope that he nails one of these big plays to Pickens.
Yeah, Justin Watson scored last week, too. That's another good one.
A lot of guys. All right, we got college football coming up next. And this guy's in the news, and today is the perfect day to talk about it.
I'm a man.
Baseball's dead? Nah. We've got pitchers hitting grand slams, a team playing a four-man outfield, and the best crop of major league talent maybe ever. Baseball is alive and well, and it's about to get even better. Bet just $5 to get 100 in free bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, bet $5 to get 100 instantly, and get in on the action.
Everyone loves an underdog story. You know why? Because it fills you with hope, makes you believe, right? Hold on now. Did you say any team? So now I can bet the overdog for underdog odds? Team Overdog, where you at? Let me hear you.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet just $5 to win $200 if your team wins. Action's so good, why bet NFL anywhere else?
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
Okay, here we go. So we're celebrating an anniversary today. We are. Mike Gundy is one of the greatest post-game press conference meltdowns, especially in college football of all time. So he says, "I'm a man. I'm 40." That was September 22nd, 2007.
Wow.
Oh my God, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And then we got another quote from him about the quote.
Oh yeah, this was a couple days ago. So there's a Bedlam is history. We all know that. Everybody needs to get over it and move on, because he's talking about there as conference realignment is consistently changing and the whole landscape of college football.
How can you just say to get over it though?
Yeah, you can't, because that's the rivalry with Oklahoma
rivalry.
and Oklahoma State. Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably say Red River is probably maybe a little bigger than that. I don't know. Clearly, they don't care. He doesn't care about losing this. But Chinmay Vaidya of DK Nation is here. We're going to rip through some college football best bets. But, dude, they're not going to, once Oklahoma kind of moves on, once the Sooners move on to the SEC here, this is, sorry, my phone's on the desk. Okay, so they're not going to move on with this rivalry here, Chinmay. Is this kind of just the tip of the iceberg here with conference realignment? You expect more of these big historic rivalries just to kind of go away?
You know, as a Missouri alum, I'm very familiar with rivalries going away. Missouri and Kansas stopped playing the border showdown, or border war, as it was called, at football at least. And Bill Self stopped the basketball games. They brought it back the last few years. There was a charity event that happened, I believe, in 2019 or 2018 that kind of started the process of bringing it back. So we know that these rivalries are going to go away, but at the same time, there are some new rivalries that are going to be coming into the picture. You know, there's a possibility that USC moving to the Big Ten brings a nice rivalry between the Trojans and Ohio State or Michigan. Cincinnati and Houston coming into the Big 12. There's some history with West Virginia there. And Missouri has Oklahoma. There's been some great games between the Tigers and Sooners. So when Oklahoma comes into the SEC, that rivalry is going to be there as well. Texas and Texas A&M. So, yes, we do lose some rivalries like Bedlam, but there will be former rivalries that get renewed because of conference realignment. So I think it all evens out in the end, and I'm excited to see what ends up happening once the realignment gets finalized, because we know that there are going to be more teams on the move at some point.
All right, Chinmay, some big ranked conference matchups this week. Let's start with the ACC. So number 5, Clemson, number 21, Wake Forest here. So what's a bet that stands out to you that you like in this one?
I really like Clemson against the spread. I believe it's at 7 right now, and I like that. Tigers have a 13-game win streak in this matchup, and 2011 was the last time that Clemson wouldn't have covered this spread. So it's been Clemson in dominating fashion in this rivalry. The Tigers on the money line are actually a good parlay pick if you want to, throw around some other bets. The money line play for Clemson is pretty good, but I'll take the Tigers against the spread with a touchdown. I think they win by a little bit more than that.
All right, let's go to the SEC here. Number 20, Florida visiting number 11, Tennessee. What you want?
This is probably the best game of the weekend, and the Gators have won the last 5 matchups, I believe. Tennessee won in 2016. I think that was the last time the Vols won this game, and I'll take Florida plus 10.5. I think Tennessee is the better team, and I would take the Vols straight up at home, but 10 points with Florida, a team that has won in this game the last 5 times, I'll take the Gators in that. I'm confident with at least 10 points. 10.5, you would still cover that, so give me the Gators plus 10.5 in that one. I think that's the easy pick there.
Yeah, it kind of seems like their offense has fallen off a little bit since with that game against Utah.
Yeah.
I think it was the Kentucky game that really screwed them up. Mm-hmm. But they had some good moments in Utah. The Kentucky game was definitely a tough blow for them, but I do think the Gators bounce back here and at least keep this thing close. And I do think Tennessee is still the better team, but they had a tough time against Pitt with a backup quarterback in for most of the game. So it's not like the Vols are this absolute juggernaut either. It's a tough environment for Florida, so I still like the Gators here with that spread. If it was any closer, though, I might lean Tennessee.
All right, another one in the SEC, number 10, Arkansas in College Station against the 23rd ranked Aggies. You got to lean in this one, like this, a lot of implications here. The winner kind of establishes themselves as that clear number 2 behind Alabama.
I like Arkansas on the money line. They've played great competition so far, and they've won all 3 of their games. A&M might have a bit of a hangover after a tough win against Miami. The only concern that I would have if I'm betting Arkansas here is the Razorbacks play Alabama the following week, and they might be looking ahead potentially to that one and overlooking this A&M team. So that would be my only concern if I'm taking Arkansas. But I still like the Razorbacks in this one on the money line. You get a plus money play. I'll take that all day.
What's an upset bet you like this week?
I really like when you have a home underdog on the money line. So I'm going Michigan State money line against Minnesota. Spartans are at home, and they're getting a little bit of hate right now after that loss against Washington. And Minnesota, I think their team is a little bit on a high after a big win over Colorado, which is in shambles right now. The Spartans have won the last 5 in this matchup, so I'm going with Michigan State at home.
All right, Chinmay, absolute favorite bet on the board this week. What is it?
I think I'll go Ohio State. I think it's at 19 right now against the spread against Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin is not a very good team, and Ohio State has national title aspirations. So I think the Buckeyes make a big statement here in prime time. Give me Ohio State against the spread in that one.
All right, Chinmay, good stuff, dude. We will talk to you soon. We're back here tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time. We got a Thursday edition of the slate at 5 o'clock tonight, too, with Koff and possibly Reed. They'll talk much more Thursday night football. So we'll see everyone back here tomorrow morning. Peace out.